In a time not so long ago, there was an old couple. They were of the Jewish faith, the husband being a rabbinical scholar. Through all their married life, they'd longed to have a child, but it was only in their dotage that the old woman became pregnant. She gave birth to a daughter, but it was found that this daughter was horribly ugly. Her face was almost like that of a beast. So from the earliest days, they kept her hidden away from the public eye. And when students came to come under the tutelage of the father, she would be relegated to a room nearby. But being in close proximity, this girl, called Rachel, learned all that her father was teaching. Through the doorway, she could hear all that he imparted to the students who came together with him. And besides that, because she had so much time in her chamber, she had time to study the sacred texts. One day, her father came home from the synagogue with a very perplexed look on his face, and she asked, "Father, what is it that's troubling you?" And he related that the rabbis had been discussing a particular passage of one of the holy books that they could not come to understand. And to his great surprise, his daughter explained the meaning of the text in a very clear way. So when the father went back and spoke to the other rabbis, he gave acknowledgement to his daughter's wisdom. And after that time, whenever a passage could not be understood, they sought out her way of expressing it, which was always clear, giving them an understanding of the deep meaning of these holy sayings. Now, after a time, her wisdom became known far and wide, and it came to the ears of a young student who lived in a town far away. So he made his way to the place in which Rachel and her family lived, intent on meeting this wise being. But when he came there, of course he was told all questions had to be directed to the rabbi, and they would be passed on to his daughter. But the student insisted that he wanted to meet this maiden. In fact, he said, "I would like to marry her." Of course, the father tried to dissuade him, but after a while the father thought, well, perhaps this is what is ordained, and this young man is meant to be her husband. So he agreed to the marriage. Now, on the day that the marriage took place, of course, Rachel was veiled, and in the dim light of the chambers, he could not see her face clearly. So that night of their wedding, he laid with her. The next morning, when they awoke, of course, he was confronted with her ugliness, and he was completely repelled. That very day, he left, but he left behind his ring, and his talus, and he was not heard from again. 9 months later, Rachel gave birth to a son, a clever, handsome boy. But the grandparents claimed him for themselves, so that everyone thought that he was their child. But when he went to school, people laughed at him and jeered at him. How could this ancient couple be his parents? So the boy confronted his grandparents to learn the truth. And so he was told, of course, that Rachel was his mother. Now he loved his mother very dearly, but he said to his mother and his grandparents that it was his quest to go and find his father. And so, taking the ring of his mother and the talus, he set out to the town in which it was said his father resided. Now he went to the local synagogue to ask where he might be found. And there, when he spoke to the old rabbi said, "Why, this is my son." And so the boy took out the ring and the talus, and when he showed them to the old rabbi recognized the ring. It was a ring that he had given to his son many, many years before. And so the boy was able to say to the old rabbi, "Well, you are my grandfather." So the old rabbi said, "Come, let us go and meet my son." So when they went back to their home, the old rabbi confronted his son, showing him the ring and asking, "Do you recognize this?" And of course, his son said, "Yes, Father, it is the ring that you gave me many years ago." And then he showed him the talus. "Is this indeed yours?" And of course, it was known and admitted that this too was his talus. And so he was introduced to his son. Now the son said to his father, "Father, come with me. Come back with me. My mother is beautiful. You must come." So reluctantly, his father accompanied his son back to where they lived. And when the husband came to the doorway, he stood there, watching as his son entered the room and embraced his mother. But he stood at the doorway, afraid of the reception that he would receive. But when he looked, he saw that the woman who was his wife had a most beautiful visage, and besides that, she had a glow about her, an unearthly glow. Of course, she recognized him immediately and welcomed him in to the room, and all three of them embraced. They lived together happily, but the son noticed that his mother always kept beside her bedside a small bottle with a few drops of water and the ring, and he would ask his mother, "Why do you keep these here?" And the mother would reply, "This bottle comes from the prophet Elijah, and it contains the elixir that removed the veils from my face. And I keep the ring here to remind me." What is the end of this story? The bottle contains the elixir from the prophet Elijah that removed the veils from my face, and I keep the ring to remind me. Remind of what? What for you is the symbol of this ring? We know that the veils have been removed from our face by what is called grace. The blessings of the hard lessons of life, the blessings, the grace. But why is the ring kept as a reminder? A reminder of what? What do you keep with you? What is it that you keep beside your bed or in your heart or on your being, around your neck? It is the symbol of this ring. How would you finish this story? I keep this ring beside me because it reminds me of.
What is real?
What is real.